She's still listening. That's what he said. A barefoot boy with dirt on his face and eyes too calm for his age. For 7 long days, Lily Carter had been lying in a hospital bed, silent and still. No one knew why. One morning she was laughing over pancakes with her dad. The next she collapsed before school. The doctors called it a neurological shutdown, a rare one. They said she might wake up, or she might not. Her father, Jack Carter, never left her side. He watched as machines kept her body alive while her spirit drifted further away. They tried everything. The best doctors, the latest machines. Nothing worked. Then one quiet night, just after midnight, a nurse tapped on the window. "There's a boy here," she said. "He says he wants to help." A boy, alone, no shoes, an old hoodie 2 sizes too big. He walked straight to Jack and whispered, "I can wake her up." The strangest part? He told the truth, and the hospital cameras never saw him come in. If you're already hooked, subscribe now and follow the story until the very last moment. Because what this boy does next, it's unbelievable, and it just might change how you see everything. Jack Carter wasn't a hero. He wasn't rich. He didn't have degrees or answers. He was a single dad who drove trucks for a living. And once, a long time ago, he used to sing. After his wife died in a fire 3 years earlier, something inside him went quiet. He stopped playing guitar, stopped writing music, stopped smiling. But Lily, his daughter, was still the light in his world. She was 9, bright, curious, always asking him to tell stories before bed. She'd sit cross-legged, eyes wide, waiting for the endings like they were magic. Until that morning, the one where she tied her shoes, stood up to grab her backpack and collapsed. They called an ambulance. The ER turned into the ICU. Then came wires, monitors, tubes. Then came the silence. Jack hadn't left the hospital since. He sat by her bed for hours, holding her hand, whispering her favorite bedtime tales even when she couldn't answer. "She's in there," he'd tell the nurses. "She's still in there." They stopped replying after a while. The machines blinked and beeped, but Lily didn't move. Doctors came and went. Some gave soft hopes. Most gave timelines. One even said, "Sometimes, Mr. Carter, the brain just lets go." But Jack didn't let go. He couldn't, because this was Lily, his little girl. And she had more stories left to hear. Want to know who the barefoot boy really is? Hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because what happens next will leave you speechless. On the 4th day of Lily's coma, everything changed again, but not because of medicine. It was 3:45 p.m. when the hospital lobby suddenly filled with flashing cameras, polished shoes, and people who didn't belong. Nurses looked up. Doctors paused. Even the janitor stopped sweeping. Walking through the glass doors like he owned the place was Mr. Blake Westwood, tech billionaire, CEO of Neuronova. He wore a spotless navy suit, sunglasses indoors, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He didn't come for sympathy. He came for a photo op. Blake had seen Lily's case in a trending article, a little girl in a coma, a desperate father, a hospital under pressure. It was the perfect stage. He approached Jack with practiced charm. "Mr. Carter, I read your daughter's story. It touched me. I want to help." Jack looked up, tired and wary. "Help how?" "I'll fly in specialists, run cutting-edge AI diagnostics, neuromapping, cognitive recalibration, all free of charge." He smiled again. "We'll wake her up like rebooting a system." Jack hesitated. He didn't trust this man, but he was out of hope, out of time, and out of options. So he agreed. Within hours, machines were wheeled into Lily's room. Doctors from 3 different countries entered. They ran scans, stimulated brainwaves, projected light patterns, even fitted Lily with a sleek VR headset that glowed blue across her closed eyes. Nothing worked. Days passed. The tech did nothing. The girl remained silent. On the 6th day, Blake stopped visiting. The cameras were gone, the team packed up, no goodbye, no answers. Jack stayed. He sat by his daughter's bed, holding her hand in silence. No machines, no spotlights. Just a father, and a heartbeat that kept going because it hadn't been told to stop. And that's when something truly unbelievable happened. Not from a billionaire, not from a lab, from a boy, barefoot, alone, and invisible to the cameras. Something's coming, and it's not science. Subscribe now because Isaiah hasn't even spoken yet. The hospital had grown quiet. It was past midnight on the 7th day. Most of the lights were dimmed, the halls nearly empty. Jack sat in the same chair he hadn't left in days, fingers laced through Lily's motionless hand. A soft knock tapped on the glass. A nurse stood there, hesitant. "Mr. Carter, there's a boy outside. Says he wants to see your daughter." Jack blinked. "A boy? This late?" She nodded. "He came in alone. No shoes. Just standing there like he's been waiting." Jack stood slowly, his back stiff from sleep-deprived hours. He followed her to the waiting area. There, on a bench beneath a flickering light, sat a boy no older than 11. His hoodie was oversized, the sleeves frayed. His jeans were torn at the knees. His face was smudged with dirt. But it wasn't the clothes that made Jack stop cold. It was the eyes, calm, clear, and old. Eyes that didn't match his age. The boy stood as Jack approached. "Are you Lily's father?" he asked. "I am," Jack said slowly. "Who are you?" The boy didn't answer. Instead, he spoke 5 simple words. "I know how to help." Jack exhaled. "Look, kid, I appreciate the thought, but she's been asleep for 7 days. Doctors couldn't reach her. A billionaire couldn't reach her. I don't think—" "She's not lost," the boy said gently. "She's just listening from far away." Jack's heart skipped. "She needs something this hospital doesn't have," the boy added. "She needs what you've hidden." "What I've hidden," Jack whispered. The boy nodded. "She needs your pain." "The truth you've buried beneath your silence." Jack stared at him, stunned. "Who are you?" No answer. "Can I sit with her?" Everything in Jack wanted to say no, but something deeper, something tired, aching, and old, nodded instead. He led the boy inside. Isaiah walked up to the bed, quiet, slow. He placed one hand gently on Lily's forehead. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Then he turned to Jack. "Now you," he said. "She knows you're here, but she needs to know why." Jack stared at Lily. She looked so small, so still. Isaiah's words echoed in the silence. "She knows you're here, but she needs to know why." Jack swallowed hard. His throat felt tight, his chest heavy. He had spoken to Lily all week, but only with borrowed words. The safe ones, the strong ones, not the real ones. He sat beside her, eyes locked on her face. His hand trembled as he reached for hers. And then, softly, almost like a secret, he spoke. "I wasn't there, baby." His voice cracked. "That morning I left early. I skipped breakfast. You smiled and waved, and I didn't stop to hold you. I didn't see how tired you were. I didn't notice." Tears welled in his eyes. "You tried to tell me something was wrong, didn't you? And I wasn't paying attention." His voice broke completely now, raw and shaking. "I should have stayed. I should have told you how proud I was, how much I love you, how much you still look like your mom when you laugh. I should have been better." He gripped her small hand tighter. "Please, Lily. If you're still in there, please come back. I'll never waste another second, I promise." For a moment the room was still. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. Then, beep, just once. A tiny shift on the heart monitor, barely noticeable, but different. Jack froze. Did that just—" "I saw it," Isaiah said quietly. "She's listening." The nurse, standing in the doorway, gasped. Jack turned, stunned. "That was real, right? That actually happened?" Isaiah nodded once. Calm. Certain. Then, without another word, he stepped toward the door. Jack called after him. "Wait, what's your name?" The boy paused, hand resting on the handle. "Isaiah." And then he was gone. The next day, Jack didn't move from Lily's side. He barely slept, barely spoke. His thoughts kept circling one name, Isaiah. Who was he? How did he know? And why, for the first time in 7 days, had Lily's heart responded? By morning, Jack finally asked a nurse to check the security footage. She returned, confused. "There's no boy on camera. Not in the lobby, not in the halls, nothing." Jack frowned. "That's impossible." She shrugged. "Maybe you were dreaming." But Jack knew he wasn't. The boy was real. He felt it. And that evening, Isaiah returned, just as silent as before, standing at the edge of Lily's room like he had never left. Jack stood up fast. "Where did you go? How do you keep getting in here?" Isaiah looked calm. "I go where I'm needed." He walked slowly to Lily's side and placed his hand gently on her wrist. Then he looked at Jack. "She's closer today. She's heard your truth. But now, she needs something else." Jack's heart pounded. "What?" Isaiah looked up. "She needs the song." Jack blinked. "What song?" Isaiah tilted his head. "The one you used to sing. before everything went quiet. Jack stepped back like he'd been hit. There was only one, a lullaby, not on any playlist, not recorded, just a melody passed down by his grandmother, whispered in a low voice during stormy nights. He hadn't sung it since the funeral, since the fire, since the silence took over. "I can't," he whispered. Isaiah didn't pressure. He simply said, "She remembers it. So do you." Jack sat down beside the bed, his eyes filled with tears. He took a breath. His voice cracked. And then he began, "There's light in the shadows and stars in the rain. Hold on, little dreamer. You'll fly once again." His voice trembled. His throat burned. But he kept singing. And as he did, the heart monitor changed. Not a spike, not a warning. A steady, rising rhythm. The nurse gasped. "She's reacting." Isaiah smiled. "You gave her something to come back to." Jack didn't know how long he had been singing. Time had folded into something else. A rhythm, a memory, a thread pulling Lily back toward the light. When he opened his eyes, Isaiah was standing at the foot of the bed, silent, still. Jack looked at him. "Why are you doing this? You don't know us." Isaiah turned his gaze toward Lily, then back to Jack. "You're wrong. I do know her." Jack froze. "What do you mean?" Isaiah stepped forward slowly. His voice was softer than ever now, as if it didn't belong to this world. Not her name, her heart. The room felt heavier or lighter. Jack couldn't tell. Isaiah placed his hand gently on Lily's blanket. "I was a child once, lying in a bed like this, alone, afraid, waiting for someone to come, but no one ever did. No songs, no stories, just machines and silence." Jack felt his throat close. The words were simple, but they cut deeper than anything else had. Isaiah continued, "I promised myself, if I ever got the chance to change that for someone else, I would." A long silence settled over the room. Jack fell to his knees beside the boy. You're not just a kid, are you?" Isaiah didn't answer. Jack searched his face but couldn't find anything ordinary. Only calm, only stillness, like he had seen too much, lived too long. "Are you an angel?" Jack asked, barely breathing. Isaiah turned toward the door. "She's not lost anymore. You're what she needs now." "Wait." Jack stood up quickly. "Will you come again?" Isaiah paused at the doorway. "If she needs me, yes. But I think your voice is stronger now." And just like that, he stepped into the hallway and vanished. No door opened. No footsteps, no trace. Jack ran after him, called the nurse, checked the cameras again. Nothing, no sign, no footage, no boy. But Jack knew what he saw, what he heard, and what had just changed in the air. Isaiah had been there, maybe not to everyone, but to Lily, and to him. The ICU floor was unusually still. Jack hadn't moved from Lily's side since Isaiah disappeared. He stayed through the night, his voice hoarse from singing, his body aching, but he didn't stop. He sang that same lullaby again and again, not because someone told him to, but because he knew she could hear it. Doctors came and went. Some shook their heads, others avoided eye contact. But Jack kept singing. At exactly 6:02 a.m., as soft light filtered through the blinds, Lily's right hand moved. Not a reflex, not a twitch from a machine. She reached. Her fingers curled toward his. She reached for her father. Jack dropped the notebook in his lap. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. He grabbed her hand and held it like it was the only thing keeping him alive. "Lily," he whispered. No response, but her hand stayed. Nurses rushed in. Alarms flickered. The monitors showed stable heart rhythm, improved brain activity. But no one could explain it. Dr. Marin, the lead neurologist, flipped through her notes for the third time that hour. "We don't understand this," she said, her voice unsure. There was no medication, no trigger. The nurse beside her asked, "So what do we call it?" The doctor hesitated, then muttered, "An anomaly." Jack didn't say a word. He didn't care what they called it, because he knew what it was. It was Lily coming back. He stayed in the room the rest of the day, holding her hand, watching her breathe, the pink color slowly returning to her cheeks. Then, sometime after midnight, a whisper, barely a sound, but real. "Daddy." He turned, heart frozen in his chest. "Lily?" he said, leaning in. Her eyelids fluttered. She blinked slowly. Her voice was weak, but steady. "You came back." Jack choked on a laugh that turned into a sob. "I never left." She looked around. Her lips moved. "Where's the boy?" Jack froze. You saw him? She nodded softly. He said he was the echo that found me when I couldn't see. Jack couldn't stop looking at her. Lily was still pale, her voice still fragile, but her eyes were awake, alive. She smiled, just barely, but it was real. He wiped his face and asked, "What else did he say, sweetheart?" Lily looked toward the window. He said, "You were waiting for me on the other side of the dark, and that if I followed the music, I'd find you." Jack's heart cracked open all over again. She whispered, "He smelled like dust and warm bread, and he laughed like sunlight." Jack kissed her forehead. He didn't understand it all. Maybe he never would, but it didn't matter. The next morning, Jack stepped outside for the first time in days. The air felt different, softer, warmer. He didn't go home. He went straight to a small shop and bought a spiral notebook. He filled the first page with a single word, Isaiah. Then came songs, stories, memories he had buried too deep, because now he understood what Lily and Isaiah had both been trying to tell him. It was never about saving her with machines. It was about being her voice when she couldn't speak, her music when she couldn't move, her light when everything went dark. Jack sold his truck, then the boat, then the cabin upstate. Not to escape, but to build. With the money, he launched a small community center called the Echo House, a place for children in grief, in silence, in pain. The motto painted on the front wall, "Where silence ends and healing begins." And right by the entrance, Lily painted her first mural. A child in an oversized hoodie, hand extended, standing in a field of stars. Beneath it, in bright blue letters, "He didn't have wings, he had faith." 1 year later, on a quiet spring evening, Lily Carter stood on a small stage inside the Echo House. Her legs trembled, her hands shook around the microphone, but her voice did not. She began to sing the lullaby, the same one her father once whispered into the dark. "There's light in the shadows and stars in the rain." Her voice carried through the room like wind through a forest, soft but certain. When she finished, the crowd stood in silence. No clapping, just stillness. And at the back of the room, in the last row, sat a boy, barefoot, hoodie too big, eyes calm. Jack saw him. Their eyes met. And then he was gone. No door opened. No one else noticed. But Jack smiled. He didn't need proof. Not anymore. Later that night, Lily sat by her bedroom window, staring at the moon. Jack walked in quietly and sat beside her. "You okay, baby?" he asked. She hugged her stuffed giraffe. "I was thinking, what if Isaiah finds another little girl? One who's scared like I was." Jack brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "Then I hope someone nearby is singing." Lily nodded. "We should teach the world to sing." He smiled. "You want to do that?" "Yeah," she said, her eyes glowing. "Like you taught me. But louder, bigger, everywhere, on the internet, on rooftops, at night, so no one feels alone." Jack held her close. "Then we will." And they did. They started a channel. Isaiah's Echo, stories, drawings, songs, real and raw. Within weeks, millions of views, thousands of messages from hospital beds, shelters, prisons, bedrooms. Each one ended the same way. "I thought I was lost, but now I think maybe I'm just not finished yet." They never saw Isaiah again, not clearly. But sometimes, in quiet corners of the world, people would speak of a barefoot boy. A child who appeared when hope was dying. A boy no camera could catch, no system could explain. He didn't fly. He didn't heal with lightning or fire. He simply sat down beside those who were slipping away and whispered, "I can wake you up." Because in the end, he didn't save Lily. He reminded the world how to believe again.